The earliest memory I have with money is the association of it with responsibility. My dad would bring his salary. It would all go into this one locker, and then little by little come out for groceries or whatever it is. Every single item was itemized there.
My dad asked me for the first time, how much do you want in your, monthly expenses? You're in college now. And I was like, yeah, okay, $500 is good. And he's like, no, you're gonna need more than $500. I'm like, whoa, what's gonna be so expensive? I'm gonna go while like everything costs you money. We've been taught about, the importance of being self-made. We have nothing and we build from, but that's not true.
I remember when we came here a few months in, we had our first consultation with you, in fact. And the first thing that you told us also was,
hello again, and welcome back to the NRI Money Mindset podcast, probably soon to be renamed the Money Culture Stories podcast. We're here with another couple today, a couple of my friends, Nandhu and Anjali. I've known them for a long time. Nandhu and I go way back from elementary school, and we both grew up in Delhi. And now Nandhu and Anjali have found their way over here to the US. But they didn't take the traditional path that most people take, which is coming to study a master's and taking a job. Nandhu came here as part of his job later in his career. I was curious to have them on, hear how they made the decision to come to the US, as well as how they're navigating, like settling down in India and then having to resettle in the US. I asked them for introductions before this podcast. Nandhu said he's a generic IT nut, and Anjali said she's a psychologist and consultant. That basically means, as a couple, he takes away all the jobs and she tells people that they don't need to feel bad about it.
Thank you. No, we're excited. It's gonna be an interesting conversation.
Was there anything you think that the audience should know before we dive in?
I might make a lot of puns, but other than that, I'm not sure. That might come up.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I will just open it up with the question I ask everybody, right? What is your first memory of money?
you want to take that?
Okay. My first memory of money actually is the festival Kanjak. You in the north, you one day a year, if you're a young girl, you go to every house in the neighborhood and you get fed a lot of delicious food and you get some money, $5 or $10 at the time, and it is the most exciting day for a young girl. Because then you get this nice pocket money and you also get to eat and judge cooking of all the aunties in the neighborhood. But why I used to like that day was because a week after Kanjak used to be the Delhi Book Fair. And I still love books. So my father used to take me to the book fair. And it used to be like, okay, so here you use a Kanjak money, and very slyly he'll be putting more money into it because obviously all the books won't that I buy wouldn't be covered with the pocket money. But yeah, I think that's the earliest memory of money that I could think of, like physically holding it, getting excited, putting it in a little pouch and be, oh, today, I got this much this time. And and then get going to the book fair a week later. I think that's something I used to find very exciting.
You can tell she's a psychologist.
What?
You're talking about how it felt to hold money the first time. My answer is a bit more generic. My first experience with money, or the earliest memory I have with money, is the association of it with responsibility. So I'll give you two examples, right? So the earliest thing I remember is my family's always been a one-income household. So what I remember is that my dad would bring his salary. It would all go into this one, locker, and then little by little come out for groceries or whatever it is. And even when they went to buy groceries, they would come back and there would be this long register where they would note down, we bought onions for this much, we bought everything for this much. So every single item was itemized there. And I remember having, holding money in such awe, and, you needed to be responsible to be given money. So, even when my mother used to give me a check to pay the quarterly fees for the school, and I had to go into the bank in the school and just pay it, I used to feel like so special that, I'm going to the bank and doing this banking activity. One time I lost the check. That did not go well. But yeah, to me, money was always associated with a lot of responsibility.
Is that like a good responsibility or a bad responsibility?
Heavy one.
Heavy one. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a bad or good responsibility, because it's not like I felt anxious about the entire thing,
Hmm.
but I would say that it did inform a lot of my sense of self-importance, or what it means for me, right? Yeah, I was very, prone to spending on things that I like, uh, you know so going buying Pokemon cards or something along those lines, and those were not exactly very cheap, right? So you're just splurging money on things that are not needed. So uh, again, finding myself to be found worthy in the eyes of my family, that okay, this guy can handle his money, that part was the heavy part of it. Yeah.
Do you both remember what the first thing is that you bought that was like a cherished item?
Oh, I don't know because I used to shop a lot.
I think you had this thing where you weren't aware of how far money goes till you went to college.
Yeah, I didn't. I had no idea. The first time I ventured out of like the safety of the home and went to college, I was like, oh, things like cost. Because my dad asked me for the first time, how much do you want in your, monthly expenses when you're in college now? And I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, $500 is good. And he's like, no, you're gonna need more than $500. I'm like, whoa, what's gonna be so expensive? I'm gonna go by the metro. How like what's gonna cost me money? And then everything costs you money. I was that 18, 19-year-old. It's like, oh, okay. So the little bubble around privilege sort of breaking. And I didn't realize for the longest time that what is cheap and what is costly. Like that, I know it sounds such a like a bratty statement to say, and I'm very ashamed of that part. But I think we met when we were in college, and he's this person who was so responsible around money, who's thinking, and I'm like, yeah, but it's okay if you're going out, you're gonna get some bill. What's the big deal? And I remember the first time I went to his place, I took a bus. Nobody, in my defense, nobody came to collect the ticket. So I didn't buy the ticket and I was very excited. I'm like, oh my God, the bus is free, you guys. And he's like, you didn't pay for the bus. So yeah, I was that sheltered brat for a longest period.
I mean, in your defense, I think both of us, at the very least, came from enough privilege that we did not even have to think about saving money till we
Hmm.
got a job. Like,
No, but you told me about saving. So he's like, oh, I've started putting my money in this thing called a mutual fund. I'm like, what is that, and why do I not have it? I was still I think doing my masters or something at that point, and I went to my dad and like, what is this thing called? Like, and I want it. Apparently, people have it who are financially responsible. I also want it. And thanks to him, I actually started looking at it, and that's how I started learning more about money. So he's the reason why like I became more financially responsible eventually.
while we were still in college, like till I graduated college, my biggest concern was making sure whatever money I get for the month lasts to the end of the month, right? That was the level of my maturity, so to speak. uh, that, and the fact that we took a education loan for my MBA. So I knew that was going to come, and I wanted that responsibility. Like I actively said, no, I want it in my name and I want to pay it off, right? And when I got a job, and the salary was not that great to begin with, but and part of it used to go for the education loan, and then I wanted to be independent. I wanted to live alone. I wanted to stay, pay rent. So that goes away, and then you start spending your own money, and then you realize, oh wait, all the money I used to get in a month, that's all I'm saving. And in the beginning, see, at least I think India has a good enough system that there are some mandatory savings that you used to be able to do, right? From a tax saving perspective. So you used to basically just be able to tell yourself, I'm saving something, right? Now, that a similar example here would be the 401k, but a 401k here is an instrument that will, you have to retire to see it again. But you have some other instruments where you can just lock it in for 3 years or 5 years and you can see it after that, which has helped us in our journey quite a bit as well.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I do not remember what was the first significant thing. No, actually, for my first salary, I bought tickets to the play Mughal Azam for my parents, and I bought this old, not this sort of a music thing for my grandfather, where he could listen to the old songs all recorded for him.
What about you, Nandu?
Something I do remember, what my first big purchase I do remember, and I'm not proud of it at all. This hormone induced teenager, I was on a flight back with my parents from Chennai to Delhi, and they used to sell those things, sell certain things on the aircraft, right? Merchandise and
Okay.
stuff. And I found this his and hers watch, watches, and I bought that for my girlfriend at the time.
Mm.
And and my mother's right there, right? She understands full well what's going on. It did not go down well. And the fact that we broke up soon after that did not help either. But
Oh.
like, I think my best friend Nikhil still holds it against that girl for not giving that watch back when we broke up.
Well, some would say it was just the right time.
You better watch.
Beat you to it. So tell me a little bit more about what money was like in your household growing up. Do you have particular rituals that you remember around money?
The entire thing with the grocery bills, and keeping money in a locker, and if someone comes and asks for a bill, then you have to be the person to go and get that out, and you note it down in a little notebook how much you've taken out, all those things. So those were little rituals that were there. And one thing which I did note was how our interaction with money changed with age, right? That I think also is a story of how the wealth grew within the family as well, right? When you're younger, you're only going to these flea market shops, and then when you've reached high school and you start seeing the world open up a little bit more for you, you introduce your parents to it, and they start seeing, okay, you know what, it's not that much different. They can also indulge in it a little bit, and then next thing you know, everyone's going to the malls. So you start seeing a little bit of branded shoes coming in. Now my father like loves different shoes. At one point he had like 7 or 8 pairs of just sneakers. So in that sense, there's been quite a bit of growth. But yeah, I think growing up there was a very middle class mentality there, that saving is important. And I don't think my parents were ever big on trading or putting money into the market. They were more into just save money, put it into FDs, put it into other liquid assets, and then go from there. What about you?
Growing up, I had a very different idea of where we are financially and what it means. Growing up, we were given consistent messaging around you have to save, we don't splurge, we don't have a lot. That didn't mean we didn't live a comfortable life, but that didn't mean that, oh, you're going on vacations every year, or things like that. So my father's he's a surgeon. We saw him go abroad every year for his work. So the all that travel meant somebody is going there to work. There's no leisure as such. I remember maximum 3 or 4 times that we would have taken family trips, so to say. Okay, so it's not that too, like, Nainital or Jim Corbett, like not nothing too extravagant as such, which is normalized now. But we were given everything, and at the same time, at least I was kept at a distance from the financial aspect of things. So that created a bit of conflict sometimes, that do we have money or not? Is it okay if I go ask for money for a school trip? Is that something that they will say yes to, or what's gonna happen? But I did see them struggle during the recession around 2010, 2012. That was the first time I noticed, like, things are not okay. And that was a significant time because my mother was a lot into trading at that time. And I think they had lost everything that they had put into the market at that time. And that's the first time we felt like the real tension of what scarcity might look like. I think they still joke about it. Like, my mother got it back into trading 2 years ago, and she's like, I have to take back from this market what it took from me. 20. It's only after I moved out and I started living it, the concepts around money started sort of evolving. I feel like a way of controlling or sometimes holding people back in a traditional patriarchal setup sometimes could be to not have those discussions around money at
Yeah,
all. So I might sound like a brat at a 19-year-old that, oh, what is my, but it's also because I've never been taught about it. It's a thing that everyone should be taught about, and
yeah.
I wasn't.
I mean, I don't know if it's like a patriarchal system or just the way we interact with money, right? Like even was not
Yeah.
talked to about money growing up, or rather, in all Indian households, were only told the importance of saving, which is ingrained to you at an early age. But beyond that, we're not kind of taught anything else.
Yeah, but no, I say the gender aspect to it a little bit because I could see men or male members of the family being a little bit more involved. Like, okay, we bought this land, let's go. But why does the girl child need to go? No, like
Mm,
let the men go. Women don't need to. So you don't get exposure to what wealth could look like, and those traditional gender roles start forming at an early age. So for me, it was like, okay, my mom gets this much money every month, and she runs the family,
yeah.
the all the chores. So all that is her department. The larger things,
Mhm.
those go to my grandfather, not even my father.
Mm,
Head of the household.
Head of the household. So it's very clear cut. This is what you're supposed to learn, and you start imbibing that from an early age. So as a child, money meant this abstract thing to me, and it often brought a lot of confusion in my life. That because I'm on one hand, I'm getting the messaging that we don't have enough. On the other, we are just going all out for a cousin's wedding. So which one is it?
I think it's interesting because my family came from a very different kind of privilege, which I was again not aware of, right? Because my father was a government employee, at
mhm.
least government affiliated employee, right? Which basically meant we were living in the campus, so we didn't have any significant rent or costs as such, and we were saving like whatever was being made, we were saving, and we were living within a budget. And my parents were very, I think they came from a very need based expense mindset, right? Like we did not get a car till there was a second child, and okay, now we need to have a car because there are four people. We didn't get a scooter till okay, you know what? We need to be able to go get these things. Otherwise, bus was the main thing that was being used, right? We did not get a telephone till my father decided to, whether had to go somewhere outside, and therefore we needed a telephone, or uh, more specifically internet till he had to go for 6 months to Germany, right? So then we had internet and we had a computer, and so that my mom could talk with my dad, right? They could do Skype calls and stuff. So a lot of things came in the form of need. Otherwise, it was basically keep it to the bare minimum cost. That is not to say that anything that is required will not be there, but we wouldn't be splurging or going out big in that way. We did do vacations as a family quite a bit. Nice, we'd go to Jaipur or we'd go to some other place. We'd do road trips and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So from that standpoint, there was not much of a difference. But once we started getting into, I started going to college and started seeing these things, then you start asking questions, right? And they also obviously by that point started feeling more comfortable opening their world up as well, which was good in that sense. But yeah, I think they have not experienced the world till my father retired last year,
Wow.
Yeah.
and then he went to live in Faridabad and near Delhi, and he's like, so there's a new function going on outside. So now Punjabis are celebrating this. Now Bengalis are celebrating this. He did not hear any of those things when he was sitting there, right?
Yeah.
He did not have electricity cuts. He did not have any of those things that the rest of the population was enduring. Now they're seeing all of those things and they're like, okay, you know what? We did live in a heaven, so to
No,
speak.
but because we're talking about finances and overall money, something that I really appreciate about his parents is when they retired with the mindset that we have worked all our lives and now we are going to live.
Mm,
And that's how, like, that's what I look up to because they've been traveling nonstop, having different kinds of experiences, and they're much more practical and much more realistic about what they want to prioritize. And I think
yeah.
kind of look, this is what retirement should look like, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like you grew up, your financial needs grew with you, and your parents grew alongside that. But talk to me a little bit more about what it was like amongst your peers. Did you notice socioeconomic difference between you and your peers in high school?
Absolutely. I have gone to my classmates' homes for school projects. I found out what a duplex means. I've had my friends come over to my place and they'll be like, "Oh, only three bedrooms, okay." So there are hints like that, but that is not to say that it felt any less than. It just felt different, right? They're coming from a different world. They're coming from a different socioeconomic context. And like I said, we had that little subtle privilege of living in an oasis of our own, right? Where we have a campus which is very, which has its own water supply, electricity supply. So you're like completely isolated from the rest of the world and you can live a very happy life. So people used to love my colony when they used to come there, right? They used to like, there's a football ground, there's a volleyball ground. Yes, it's all for the users at my father's office, but we're the ones using it. So in that sense, there was a difference. And there was definitely a difference when it came to certain, who goes to which tuition, to prepare for their exams, all of those things as well. But I don't think that impacted me as much because you make a group where with people you're comfortable, and I think money at that point becomes secondary.
Curious what socioeconomic class you thought you put yourself in when you were in high school.
In high school, I would have definitely said middle class. Like even before that, I would have said middle class. I might have started thinking it's more like upper middle class, but yeah, high school, seeing the world a little bit more, I would say middle class.
It's like you have this homogenous group, right? Because that's how society has built so many infrastructures around us. So if you're going to a certain school, you're only talking to a certain kind of people who are coming from very similar backgrounds, and that becomes normalized. So growing up, I thought this is all like what normal middle class is, but now seeing where everyone is and having a bit more understanding of what people have access to, I would say that the brackets shift quite a lot. I would say as a child we thought we are all middle class, but growing up I can tell we were not middle class. We were probably very comfortably upper middle class. Maybe as a therapist, or I don't know, as a psychologist, sometimes that brings a lot of discomfort to me because that just tells me how we assert a certain kind of reality when that may not be it, because it never occurred to us that there could be other financial classes and other realities for people till a child specifically was introduced in our class that, oh, this is a child under EWS. And honestly, that was not very nice to single out a child like that. Nobody knew what to do with that information.
And how did this change when both of you went to college and beyond?
So I did my master's from Tata Institute, which is a school known for its leftist ideology and very, very grounded in social justice and equity lens. That was the first time staying in a remote area outside of Chennai, just 30 people in the entire cohort. And that's the first time I witnessed what not just different economic classes, but the caste class divide looks like and how that interacts. I remember casually one time mentioning that, hey, it's not a big excuse, we can buy more stationery for something in a class project. And a classmate of mine very rightly pointed out that that's not the reality for everyone. Some of us have to budget, and that was true. And that started informing a lot of how I view myself, the social location I come from, where the social location of my family, and that's where sort of a lot of questioning started. We've been taught about the importance of being self-made, all of these things, that we have nothing and we build from, but that's not true. I am where I am in that space because I have a whole lot of backing, both generational wealth, social wealth. I can afford to pay for an apartment because, oh, I don't want to live in a PG. uh, all of those things started hitting me, and that that conversation, or that dialogue that should have happened years ago as a teenager, sort of started happening much later in life, right? That what does saving actually look like when you have nothing? Um, what does it mean to live on an X amount of money in the month? How do you started having those difficult questions around, do you want to probably walk instead of even taking the bus, or do you want to save some money for a rainy day instead of maybe going for this extra plate of idli right now? I don't know. Like, you start having these conversations, and you also start learning from people around you and witnessing people's realities, and um, you also learn a lot from that. A lot of people's good and bad experiences, which generally, again, when you are in a homogenous sort of an echo chamber, you would not, you would never know about. um, I started thinking a lot more about equity and social wealth. Even our dynamic shifted a lot, because I started questioning, a lot of things that I thought were normal. And he was uh, just a student when we were dating too, right? Just like me. But I was like, no, I want to go to one fancy place once a month, all of that. And I started recognizing that that must have put so much strain on him, right? And just because it was my idea of normal, I kind of imposed on him, even financially, and those things started shifting a lot.
Like I said, right, in school, my understanding was I'm very middle class, right? So we had so many of our classmates, including you, who after finishing high school moved abroad. You had so many people who went to the top Ivy League schools within India, and I ended up going to a college in Trichy. As it is, that's more in the rural side of things. And then I was in a program where most of the people were from the rural side. I went from a situation where I felt I was middle class and everyone else was upper middle class, to finally see the caste and class privilege I had, that I was coming from. Like, I was in a situation where people were telling me, oh, this guy is, his culture is different. I was looking down instead of looking up. And that was something for me to just adjust with, understand, reflect, and see that, okay, there's actually, India's population is much larger than we know. And we all think we are middle class, but the population to the left is much bigger than the population to the right that we are aspiring to become. Second year into college, I realized that this program is very new. They don't have a very good placement wing, and people who are getting out of here are getting jobs which I can't imagine will sustain even them. And so I made a decision. I want to get out. I want to do masters. I want to do an MBA instead. That MBA brought me back to Delhi into a program where most people were from a business background. So again, I was in a look right scenario. And I again saw a lot of caste and class privilege there among people. And I was one of those people. Everyone's like, oh, you know what, let's go clubbing today. And I'm like, I'm not paying 10,000 for entry into a club. That's just not who I am. And that made me distance myself a bit, because my experience in the college, maybe it changed me a little bit, but I started distancing myself a little bit. So I got to see quite a big wide range, and that gave me a bit of sense of responsibility, but also a sense of understanding that what we think of as middle class is not exactly middle class.
Yeah.
Right? If we were ever middle class, it might have been in the 90s.
Yeah.
But ever since then, we are very comfortably in the upper middle class region, even if everyone we know is definitely more well off than us.
Yeah, I mean, upper middle class is a misnomer, right? Like, I feel like most people who say middle class are technically upper middle class, and the people who say upper middle class are really like rich. So it's just there's this taboo attached to like calling yourself rich or like calling yourself upper class, right? I really like the statement you made, which is saying we're all middle class, but there are more people to the left than they are to the right.
And I think there's also like a political side to it, right? Because if we say, okay, we are upper middle class, so there's an idea of that, then you're excluding yourself from
Hmm.
the majority of the country.
Yep.
But that also means we are denying the lived reality of so many people. Again, talking in Indian terms, it's like, oh, 30 lakh per annum, that's very normal, right? Everybody has it. That's not true. If you look at the data,
It's the people around you.
that's a very tiny bubble. But we then start advocating and looking for that kind of politics also around us. Oh no, but why should people get reservations? Oh no, why should people get, minimum wages? This is the normal. If things are expensive, they're expensive for everyone.
I mean, it goes beyond that, right? Like we we've been together for quite a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was evident very early into that we came from very different socioeconomic
To
backgrounds.
you, it was
Yeah.
evident.
I mean, once you came to my place, I'm sure it was evident to you
No,
too.
that's not true.
But what I thought was that socioeconomic divide, it did not become real till we got into the discussion to get married.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
And that is when,
D-
you know, we started seeing exactly how wide that gap was and how we had to work with our families and each other to bridge that gap
Yeah.
and reach a point where everyone could be happy and we could move forward.
Did you have early instances of money conversations you had that made it evident to you, or was it only around marriage time?
So we didn't, I mean, early it used to basically be about where we're going on dates, what we're doing, what we're spending, getting gifts for each other, all of those things. But I think around the time we were getting married, we were having serious conversations about the things you want to talk about before you get married, right? You want to talk about finances, you want to talk about kids, you want to talk about a lot of things. That is when I brought forward what my family's entire ethos around finances was, which was that there is one joint account which is going to be like the salary account. So
Hmm.
everyone puts their money there, and then they basically spend it, and it's all one person. It's not like your money and my money; it's our money. And I think you came from a very different reality in that, and then we found a happy medium in the middle. But it took us quite a lot of time and surprisingly lot of YouTube videos to reach that point.
Yeah, no, I think, see what I'm talking about, right? Like growing up, I was told one version of how money looks like in a family unit. The main breadwinner gives it to the female. She takes a little bit out of it for whatever she needs to run the home, and then nothing is in with her. So when we got married, I was still trying to figure out who I am and what do I bring to this, because I was just starting out in
Hmm.
health and just working with NGOs and such. So I wasn't getting paid a whole lot. In fact, I was very much still dependent on my father to help me out a little bit. To then say whatever you earn is going to go away into this account and it's everyone's, that became emotionally very terrifying to me. The idea of, again, losing whatever little I have became absolutely anxiety inducing to me. So it's like you're getting this messaging that you leaving this family, it is not yours. Kinda. You going into this new one that's saying you kinda knew, we don't really trust you. Where do I belong? First of all, I've had the safety net for the entirety of my life that doesn't exist as is. Now it comes with an asterisk mark with conditions apply there. Ah, okay, and then you go into this new one where you don't understand what the norm is, what life
The
looks like. Yeah,
dynamics.
the sheer identity crisis sort of made me more possessive towards how I viewed money, because there is no empowerment if you don't have money. Without financial empowerment, there is no empowerment. So in my mind, it's like, God forbid, something goes wrong tomorrow. I have nothing. And I don't want to be stuck. So when he said, no, everything needs to be in one account, I would lash out. I was like, the hell it is not. No. And also the other conditioning, right? That but you see, growing up, the woman doesn't contribute, the man does. So why do I need to? I don't earn that much. Now he wants money from this also. Why is he not providing for it? Like, I think you have to reflect and question a lot of things and be like, wait, why am I going in that direction to begin with? And you start like finding a middle ground. And a lot of, for me, it helped a lot to have some financial literacy have in place at that time. Just
Hmm.
learning about what, an emergency fund looks like, what is a
Right.
sinking fund. All of that actually brought me a sense of groundedness,
Right.
because I was like, okay, I can control this. That brought me a lot of sort of
Confidence.
stability and confidence back into that, okay, we can do this together.
Do you mind sharing a little bit more about how your infrastructure, financial infrastructure setup?
Yeah, so for India, I'm the one who's taking care of that side. So we do have an apartment there that we bought, but the rent covers the EMI, but maintenance, other costs and all, I take care of them. I look at the investment side of it, stocks and mutual funds and such. So he has his account, I have mine, and then we have a joint account there that
Hmm.
we put. And our emergency fund is actually parked in our joint account, so we both have access to it. And what worked for us there was we put everything every month, something that we have agreed on in that joint account, which we hold each other accountable for. And then whatever we want to do with our accounts, we do that. So just that right balance. Here, that's different though, because I don't have an income here. So I have my account and he has his. And his account is also the one for use for investments and other things. And I have a certain degree of distance.
Initially, I, after living for a year in London and seeing how roommates behave, everything should be equal and all of those things, I was bringing a lot of that baggage with me. I was like, everything should be equal. If you're putting in this much, you should also put in this much, all of those things. But then, we talked about equity, and we talked about a lot of those things. And we said, okay, you know what, it makes sense. If you're earning something, you put a percentage of that earning, and I put a percentage of my earning. Yes,
Yeah.
my share would be bigger, that's fine. And for other things, we can always divide costs equally, and we can figure that out. So from that standpoint, while we were in India, I think it was we did that thing where she has her account, I have my account, and we have a joint account for household expenses, where we put money in an equity based way, not a equal kind of way. But once we moved to the US,
Right.
then it became a thing where now I don't do anything in India, right? But she is still attached to that place. She's still looking at the market. She's doing a lot of those things, and so she now runs the entirety of her finances when it comes to India. Me, I'm taking care of things on our side, on the US side of things. We spent quite a long time trying to figure out how to build up our emergency fund, but now we are in a comfortable enough position to start thinking about investing and stuff like that.
I'm curious what prompted you to move to the US?
So back in 2018, through my job, I got an opportunity to go to Australia. That converted into a permanent position in the UK. So around the time we were getting married, the plan was always to for her to move to the UK, but we did not get the comfort that we wanted, that we could stay there for a long time. So we made a call that let's move back to India. I suppose there was always a part of me, more maybe, that likes to travel, that wants to explore new places. So that was always there. So in part, where I got a job, I also negotiated it in that if I can perform in this one specific way, let's look at a position for me. It started off, we were exploring Paris, then we were exploring the UK. What worked out was the US, and then I came here, um, and then obviously I switched roles post that.
How do you evaluate living here long term?
I would, more than here in the US, I would say that we wanted to look at setting down roots somewhere, right? And we are still trying to finalize or figure out what that place can be. The US ecosystem has a lot of insecurities, in terms of uncertainties, in terms of how long your visas will get renewed, whether you can get a green card, all of those things. One of the things that we have done is we've always kept 3-4 plans. Do we want to look at maybe a job in Europe? Do we want to maybe go back to India? Do we want to stay here but move to a different state? So there are multiple things that we always keep talking about. On the bright side, it gives us a lot to talk about. On the less bright side, it gives us less incentive to set down roots.
Yeah, I think that's just part and parcel of being being on an H1 in this country.
We'll be here as long as this country wants us, because just the access to the global north and do the work that I want to do has been great. So while there are frustrating parts of the process, there are also things that I would generally not be able to access if I were in India. So, for example, if tomorrow there is a conference or a workshop in this part of the world, coming all the way from India would not make sense for me.
So yeah, so how do you view this move here, right? Obviously, you're coming from a country, you're upper middle class, let's just say. What kind of class do you think you're in over here in the US?
I would say we're comfortably middle class. Again, like I said, because of our learnings back in India, now we look at data. And the data tells us we are very comfortably above the median in any given city. When you compare purchasing power parity and you compare the kind of life you're living, I would say it's comfortably middle class because there are some places where you don't have the luxuries you had in India. A lot of things here are DIY. But at the same time, you get a lot more access, like you were saying. It comes with some asterisks in terms of your money mentality, in terms of how diligently you need to save, how much more rigorous you need to be. Like, you can't do a one-to-one comparison with INR any given day.
That's the first thing people do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I would spend
Doesn't work that way.
$5,000 eyes closed in India, but I will think three times before I spend $75 here. But at the same time, I know that $75 will go a longer way here.
I mean, I'll give a very tangible example. My heel broke last month, and I was like, I want to be more sustainable. I don't want to buy another pair of heel. I'll go and get it repaired. And I paid $45 for my heel just being repaired. I could go to Macy's and buy something for $50, right? So that didn't make sense. But in India, the same thing would have been much more sustainable, would have made financial sense. Here, that context doesn't exist. If you want human labor and craftsmanship, you have to pay so much more. Which the heel broke again, by the way. So this time I did not pay again for them to get fixed. But can I pay $45 for something? Yes. Does it matter? Like, does it hit my bank account? No. But is it? So this is where I disagree with them. I don't think it's running a whole lot longer. For us, I think we have now found a middle ground that while we save, but we also want to live a life where we are comfortable. Like, we factor in the opportunity cost in there as well.
I feel like a lot of people like the US a lot more because the mental load on a day-to-day basis is much lower
Yeah.
in the US compared to India.
Yeah.
And disproportionately, I feel like women in the relationship who are taking on the mental labor like the US for that, right? Because there's so many small things that you're dealing with,
Yeah.
which is like it's a death by a thousand cuts in India because yes, you have people and help for everything, but it also means you have to deal with and you're dependent on people for a
Yeah.
hundred things.
No, and see, you have other things here that take on your mind, but at least you don't need to figure about, oh my God, I have to go do the dishes now. You can run the dishwasher. Go, right?
Side note, when your parents visited, did you find that they were still washing the dishes by hand and putting it away, or did they use the dishwasher?
They were very curious about it, and once we showed them, they tried doing it on their own, which ended up with me having to explain what a dishwasher safe thing is and what a dishwasher non-safe thing is. That's something I appreciate about my parents, that they basically are very open to new things.
Yeah, it was really actually very pleasant, and they were very independent when they were here. We didn't
Yeah,
have
we were
that.
taking them places and they were not getting bored or anything. They were instead looking out the window and literally trying to connect the infrastructure of the US with the infrastructure in India. Literally, they were looking and saying, okay, those are electric poles that are going there. You can see there's a substation there because those poles are all together. And I'm like, who finds that interesting?
That's how you know he's a professor, right? Do you feel like it's difficult to manage in the US on one salary?
I would say it's definitely a different kind of challenge. When you're coming with an Indian company that's outsourcing, their entire perspective is on saving costs. So the salaries that you get are not going to be very high. And what that means is that we were in a situation where after coming here, we realized we were saving more per month in India than we were here. And what that also meant is that we had to then make a very hard call at one point because we also didn't know how costs hit you in the US, right? We had insurance, we thought we were covered.
Yeah.
And then she had to have her wisdom tooth removed. And the bill that came with it, that and a couple of other purchases, and we suddenly saw that whatever we had saved up in the last few months was wiped out.
Yeah.
So we had to then make a hard choice of whether we should stay in the US. whether I should look for a different job. Now, where we are at, I would say it's a bit more comfortable. We're able to save money, we're able to continue. But I think there is an aspect of independence and sense of self that comes with being able to work, which I think no matter what amount of salary I get will remove from the fact that we are now a one income household.
Mm-hmm.
It also creates a power dynamic in the relationship because there is one who is financially dependent on the other, which is not to say he's lovely. I love him and he treats me very well. But sometimes you start feeling
Blink twice.
don't have to worry about anything here. The thing though is sometimes you start questioning that, oh, you were doing your own thing, you've been dependent all your life, and then you finally do this, and then you back. And that becomes hard. So then what helps again is going back to our Excel sheet here that we have and be like, okay, our emergency fund is good. We are good. This thing is good. We are okay. And also just being able to build a life that we kind of thought of because we've had a
Mm-hmm.
big shift in how we viewed money. For me it was also very patriarchal understanding of money, right? And then marrying him, and he is really in every essence of the word very independent. He doesn't expect things to be handed over to him, and that's something that I've tried imbibing from him and started you know and I started adopting a lot more of that. And then to suddenly have no income of my own feels very like shaky. Like if I don't have this, what do I often ask him, like what am I bringing to this marriage? Like I can't earn what you're earning. I don't contribute that. Then don't you think you married the wrong person? Because maybe if I were in tech, the things would not have been this way. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, then
That it's interesting you bring it up because when we got married and when we came here, initial days when we came here, she used to ask this question a lot, right? And my answer used to be, but you're managing all our finances in India, right? But what I realized is, yes, she's managing all her finances in India, but here in this space, she is a dependent um, who doesn't have that freedom and who will feel that loss, right? So we have tried to find different ways of going around it because we see there are factors we can't control, but what we can control is how we are dealing with it, how we are spending our time here. One of the few things that we learned early in our marriage in India was that she's very good when it comes to budgeting. She's very good when it comes to visualizing buckets. For me, I'm saving money. If you want me to think about it in three different buckets and keep track of those three different buckets, they need to be in three different accounts.
Yeah.
I gave that responsibility over to her and she took full ownership of it. Like the Excel she's talking about, she's the one who's maintaining it, right? She's telling us, okay, we have filled this bucket. Now we can use this to maybe plan an international vacation, or we have to take money out of this because we are over on our purchases this month, whichever way it is. And she's the one giving me guidance. Okay, you know what? Let's go on a no spend challenge for the next 15 days. Let's see if we can do that, right? Gamifying it for me. So she's completely owning our finances, even here.
our finances here allow us something that wasn't we didn't have back in India, which was the flexibility to have proper budgets,
Mm.
things that we weren't able to prioritize back home, or we are able to here. That might be even self-care sometimes, access to different parks or trails, for instance. Just and the other interaction that I often notice is that as a constant people pleaser and somebody who finds comfort in shopping or buying things, that sometimes doesn't interact very well for us. So for me to gamify and say, okay, let's say 10 days no spend, right?
You're like, I need to suffer, but so do you.
Yeah,
No,
no.
no, no. It's the other way around. It's the other way around. She likes to shop, and if she asks me, I don't have the physical capability to say no.
He just doesn't say,
So, and the thing is, with her, it's shopping. With me, it's eating out. This morning, I was telling her, I don't feel like cooking. Let's just get Chipotle, right? And you're like, no, we're in the middle of this challenge, and we're doing so well. We're like 14 days out of 15 days. We can do this. One more day. Let's pull it out, right? So, it helps definitely to keep both of us in check. and it gives us something to do together in the house, cook together, spend time together. I think it's definitely a good way to go about it.
Did convince him to have beetroot juice and under the disguise of this challenge, so I will take it.
Anjali, you are doing the budgeting, and while Nandu is being the primary bread earner, how do you feel it's different from the setup that you had at home growing up?
To my mom, monthly budget meant running the home. That's about it.
Hmm.
For me, it's different because I come from this boat of one foot in this boat that there is a cushioning of sorts. The other is I want to be something on my own and I want us to build whatever we have. Even for our apartment back home and everything, that was all us. Everything that we had, we put it. We were literally house poor.
Hmm.
So to have a, to be able to say, okay, this is what we need to look at. This is what we are prioritizing. Have uh, active conversations around what needs to shift. And sometimes he does feel steamrolled. He's like, no, but you deciding, I can't even purchase something without you noticing. Uh, blink twice, it's okay. Uh, but but again, you go back and you have more conversations around that. Okay, I'm not saying that's not my goal to make you feel
Yeah,
so restricted,
yeah.
but you need to voice your opinion and your needs more. Uh, so that's an interesting shift, not something that I've grown up with at all, where, a female has more dominance, say there. So I like how it helps both of us feel stable in our lives because we can see where we were when we got married 4 years ago to now. It so much has
Yeah.
changed.
As you've seen your wealth grow, right? You feel like you're solidly middle class. What do you feel like it would take for you to
Jump to
go one step above and go to the next class?
good question. Don't know. I could use a job for sure.
Yeah, being a double income household would definitely help. Dinks are the best.
Find that
Like
so
if you
funny.
can get that, great. Like you're halfway there because uh, you're already at that tax bracket, right? If you can't maximize it, then what's the point? But
Double income, no kids for the people that are not familiar with that acronym.
Thanks.
trying to be
And there's Dinkward, which is double income with a dog.
With yeah.
that's the other negotiation that's going on currently. But first, we need to find a place where we can put down roots before we start thinking
Hmm.
about. Because I'm not paying a pet fee or a pet rent on top of my apartment rent. But no, see, end of day, the first thing that can give you that freedom, people think, is real estate, right? So you start thinking, you start thinking, oh, what if we bought a house? Our net worth would not jump, but at the very least have that upward trajectory because you're building equity into something, and you'll have a primary residence or you'll have a house of your own. And we've done that once, we can do it again.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like I would want to have the security that I should not buy a house when I'm not even sure I'm going to be here like 5 years, 10 years down the line, right? So when we bought a house back in 2021 in India, we put in everything we had, saved up till that point. And we were house poor. It took us like a year and a half. In fact, when I moved to the US, I had to sell my car in India and use that as my startup capital here,
Wow.
right? And I don't want to be in that situation again. I don't want to be in a situation where we've we've put on everything we've saved as a down payment and as other costs, and then we're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So maybe having that strong base that even if you have to put in 5%, 10%, 20% of that, it was not going to hurt you. That if we have to wait 2 3 years, why not? Plus, there is obviously the other argument, which is that the housing prices as they are, it might not make sense to buy a house to begin with.
Yeah.
And there might be a different vehicle that might help you maximize your wealth and take you to the next level.
What helps is if your basics are secured. Like I know today that when we moved here, we didn't even feel like, God forbid something happens back home to our families or parents, we could just take a flight without get going bankrupt, right? Like it's the wrong word, but going broke. But now that's not the case. So the first
Hmm.
bucket we actually filled was the emergency travel fund, and that brought so much security to me. And after that, I remember the next month onwards, we started putting a little bit more towards investment because I'm okay. I know that money is right there. The jump to the next level, it won't be that extreme. There are signs always, and I think one can see that growth in smaller steps as well. And that is what also gives sense of hope and the idea that you're somewhere in the right space that where you want to be.
As you navigate this challenge, I mean, new country, things like that, are you working with a financial planner?
So I remember when we came here a few months in, we had our first consultation with you, in fact. And the first thing that you told us also was to have an emergency fund. Took us a year and a half, but we did that. And now we're in a position where we might want to look at that. What I would say is currently, um, again, like I said, we want to be first sure about where we are setting down roots. Because if we are uprooting everything and then moving again, then I don't think it makes sense just yet.
I do feel like maybe we can benefit every now and then to just have
Like a
uh,
health checkup.
a health checkup, somebody to just look at, because sometimes you have blind spots. You also sometimes get the validation that you need, right? That okay, this is
Yeah.
working, this is what you can do differently. And those are helpful parts from that one can benefit, I think.
And it's probably difficult, like not knowing where you're going to go and figuring out, 401k, IRAs, like, can I put money in? Do I want to deal with the hassle of taking things out, things like that?
Not only in terms of what instruments to use, but what distribution to use, and perhaps whether even investing should be a priority at this moment or something else. Those kinds of questions, I think, having that periodic checkup is definitely helpful.
As we wrap up here, I'm curious, do you have any questions you would ask a financial planner that we can talk about on here?
I'm curious about one thing, which is a lot of instability in general around a work visa, right? And not just in the US, wherever you go, what would you say need to be the priorities? A family unit to say from that perspective, what becomes the top three priorities to look at?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Oh, sorry, we can edit it.
No, no, no. No, that's fine. Oof. That is a good question. I would say first and foremost, your best investment would probably be spending money on lawyers to understand the ins and outs of your exact visa situation, right? The ways, means, the types of visas that we have are so varied, and what you can do, what you cannot do, especially like something like a dependent visa that you're on, Anjali, right? It's so complex around what is allowed, what is not allowed. And I also say like the taxation of your visa status is very different from the legality of your visa status. So spending money on a good lawyer who's able to explain or understand your situation and explain the exact do's and don'ts on your visa is a good kind of investment, if you will. The next one is probably just in your career trajectory. I find a lot of Indian people don't focus on alternative in education, which is to say, like outside of getting the degree, like actually
Yeah.
upskilling and soft skills, right? So learning soft skills that will help you negotiate and understand the culture and move up in the workplace is a big one. And then I would say, just in terms of a pure investment standpoint, I know Indians love real estate, no knock on it, probably good enough. But I would say, like, if we're doing equities, a taxable brokerage account, just a regular investment account, if you, as you call it, is probably a great tool because it has a lot of mileage with a lot of simplicity. So you're not kind of worried about, can I put my money in? Can I take my money out? You take all the money out, you pay the taxes, and then you're done. As opposed to something like a 401k or an IRA or something where your money is locked away.
Yeah. Yeah, that
I feel like those are three good
yeah, that
things.
makes sense. I'm gonna bother you later with more specific one.
That's fine. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that today and taking time to chat. Hopefully, this was as insightful for you as it was for the people who are listening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.